This is the Honda Prologue, and it is a really big deal. This is the first electric Honda SUV. It's also the first Honda EV that we're getting here in the US. Now, we did bring you a walk around when we got to spend some time with this in the studio back in September. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel so you don't miss cool stuff like that. This is the first time that we're getting to drive it. And we're among the first journalists in the country to do so because we're out here in California attending the launch program. So we get to tell you what it's like to spend time with this thing. We get to show you a couple of different color combination options. We get to talk, of course, about how this compares to other vehicles on the market, and we're gonna get to share some fun facts with you. I mentioned that we were gonna be seeing different colors, right? Well, voila. Now, not only is this the first day that I'm driving the Prologue, this is also the first day that I'm seeing it in the real world outside of the studio. And I stand by my first impression. This is a pretty normal looking vehicle. A lot of manufacturers lean really heavily into the futuristic styling for their EVs, and it can come off a little bit try-hard, but we're not having that problem with the Prologue. Now, I also mentioned we were gonna get some fun facts, and here is your first one. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, this vehicle was designed primarily through virtual reality tech. It's a first for Honda, and I think it's pretty cool information. But all that futuristic stuff is kind of under the skin. Really, if we're looking at it in person, what really screams I'm new and different here is this color, this punchy turquoise. It's called North Shore Pearl, and I love it. One of the other giveaways that this is something a little out of the ordinary is this asterisk wheel design. Now, this is the Elite trim, so we have a 21-inch version. Touring and the base EX trim, those get 19-inch wheels. And then the other big thing is the badging around the back. We've got this E-Series badge back here, which we should be seeing more of as Honda produces more electric vehicles. And then Honda spelled out across the back in this sort of modern digital leaning font. So no more with the all caps. We don't even have the classic Honda H badge back here. That's at the front. If you look closely, you'll notice that we don't have the gaps in this grille that we would in an internal combustion powered car. There are options for customization that you can get directly from Honda that make this a little bit busier, but as is, it's very slick. Now, you see a little bit, sort of evokes that T shape we see on the front end of, for example, the new Accord. The headlights connected, the column in the middle. You can see elements of it, even if it's not all dark here. What I really love is we have one long line starting with the headlights, goes all the way down here and connects to the tail lights. It's free from overeager creases and excessive complications to the bodywork. It's a nice clean look, and it really emphasizes the length of this vehicle. At 192 inches, it is long. It's actually 3 inches longer than the Honda Passport, but it's also almost 8 inches shorter. So the proportions are very, very different. Let's see how that plays out inside. The Prologue comes standard with keyless access, which means you can keep the key fob in your purse or your pocket and it will unlock with proximity as you get close. The Elite trim though, this comes with a card that does that job. So it's just like a hotel key. I just hold it here to unlock the vehicle. If I want to lock it back up, just tap it there again, and there it goes. One thing I also want to point out, I'll unlock it again. Regular door handles. I love that. So you're adjusting to EV life, you're not going to also have to adjust to a whole new way to access your vehicle. Now let's check out the inside, and just for fun, let's shake up the color again. Looks-wise, this interior is really just a sleekified version of what we've seen on a lot of other new Hondas. Very familiar layout. They've resisted the urge to go with a single curved display for the screens like what we've seen in Kia, BMW, Genesis, Hyundai, just to name a few. Here we've got two very separate, very distinct screens, which really helps keep it cohesive with that modern Honda interior. We've still got the familiar hard controls for climate here. We've got a hard volume knob with a power button in the middle, so thank you to Honda for that it's not all in the screen. And then having the shifter mounted on the steering column, that really helps free up space in this center console. So I like that it's two-tier. You can store something else down here. I really like that you can fit the two phones easily side by side. There's plenty of room in this area, even though this is not a super wide car. Every Prologue gets two-tone seating surfaces. They're just cloth in the base trim, leather in the other two, and as you can see, they are leather here. Heated front seats and dual-zone climate control are standard. The Touring trim is going to add driver seat memory, and then the Elite trim gets ventilated front seats and a heated steering wheel. The Prologue has 111.7 cubic feet of passenger volume. That's an advantage of more than 6 cubic feet over the Cadillac Lyriq, which of course shares the platform. Now, remembering that this is a long and low vehicle, it makes sense that you feel most of that passenger volume in the legroom. Got plenty here. Even I can feel the headroom closing in a little bit here, and I'm not very tall. Luckily, reclinable rear seats are standard. That gets me a little further away from the ceiling. And the panoramic moonroof that's standard on touring and elite trims, that really helps to open things up as well, both visually and spatially. Behind these rear seats, we've got 25.2 cubic feet of cargo volume. Touring and elite trims both get a power liftgate, which is hands-free. I just prefer to use the button personally. If I lean way in here and I put both of these, if I put both rear seats down, I'm going to get up to 57.7 cubic feet of cargo space back here. Now, even though it's a little bit too long, I like that this is flat right up to the edge. There's no lip here, and I like that it's relatively high. I feel like that's going to make loading things in and out pretty easy. There's no frunk on the Prologue, but you do get a little extra storage space down here. A nice deep cubby, so that's going to come in handy. More storage space than meets the eye. Now, most important question is, how does it drive? Honda tells us that the Prologue should drive, feel, and accelerate like a Honda. So Honda driving experience first, EV second. First and foremost, it's a Honda. And from my experience behind the wheel thus far, I would say that they've nailed it. This feels like I'm driving any other Honda vehicle, my Accord at home, for example. It's very comfortable. It's a very user-friendly experience. I have the regenerative braking set on normal right now. There's also an option to turn it off completely or to use the one-pedal drive system, but that can be a little bit difficult to adjust to when you're new to EVs, and it's very nice that this has the option to just not use that at all. Naturally, you probably want to be more efficient, preserve more of your range, but if you don't want that sort of like feeling of taking your foot off the accelerator and having it slow down really dramatically, you can set it completely off and it will be a gentle deceleration. Right now I've got it on normal, and even at this setting, if I take my foot off, I can coast for a little bit before it really starts to slow down. There's nothing dramatic, which is quite nice. Honda says that the cabin is remarkably serene and quiet. Yes, it's quiet in that I'm not getting any engine noise, of course. This is an EV. I am getting plenty of road noise and wind noise. Now, I'm at highway speed, so that's exactly what I would expect, but I would not call this super insulated against sound. It's pretty normal. That said, I like that. It reinforces the sense that this is a pretty normal driving experience. I can feel the road and I can hear the road. Just makes it all the more typical, a standard behind the wheel experience, and I think going to be a very easy transition for someone who might get this as their first EV. Now, they do have something called active sound control, which Honda has developed. They say it's distinctly Honda noises. I'm not hearing it right now. I'm in normal drive mode on the highway. I did notice it a lot when we were at regular back road speeds. It's very obvious then. I'm not totally sure what distinctly Honda means when it comes to sounds. I know what an F1 Honda engine sounds like. Otherwise, not so sure. I'm not noticing it right now, and I think that's okay. This has the longest wheelbase in its class, and in fact, it's longer than the Honda Odyssey's wheelbase, so very long. Now, minivans aside, typically a long wheelbase is something that would be associated with luxury cars because it tends to correlate with a very comfortable ride. So, we've seen EVs positioned as more premium options, and that helps back that up. And I will say it has been very comfortable so far. I'm on a really cool section of road right now, so I've just switched it into sport mode. I might look at you a little bit less as I take these nice twisty turnies and switchbacks. You can hear that I'm in sport mode, so the active sound control changes and really kicks in here. It's a lot more noticeable. I'm going to be quiet for a minute and let you hear it. It's pretty dramatic. It really enhances the driving experience, makes it feel more fun. So sport mode also tightens up the steering and makes it more responsive, and it impacts throttle response and braking feel as well, which I really respect. Sometimes sport mode on some vehicles just changes throttle response or just changes steering, and that can be a little bit lackluster, so it's nice that it's a total package. This is really fun. Now, I wish that I had driven this road in some other vehicle so I would have a little bit more ability to compare, but I'm having a lot more fun than I would have expected to in an EV, in something of this size. I mean, this is an SUV, and again, it's long. If you picture driving the Odyssey on this road, I can't imagine that I would be having such a good time, but this is really a lot of fun. I am very pleasantly surprised with how much joy the Prologue is giving me on this lovely section of road. And the sound does not hurt.
But is it a Honda sound?
I don't know what a Honda sound is, so I guess Honda says it's a Honda sound, so let's go with yes. You can get the Honda Prologue with front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Front-wheel drive comes from a single motor configuration, so that's the most efficient. It's rated for 296 miles of range. It's going to make 212 horsepower and 236 pound-feet of torque. All-wheel drive comes from a dual motor setup that's rated for 288 horsepower and 333 pound-feet of torque. So all-wheel drive is standard for the Elite trim. It's optional on EX and Touring. It is going to ding your range a little bit. With the smaller wheels on EX and Touring, it's going to bring you down to 281 miles, and with the larger wheels on that top trim, it'll bring you down to 273. Now, about that range, because that is obviously a very important spec to discuss when you're talking EVs. Base model to base model, this is the longest standard range out of all of its competitors. If you look up the Mustang Mach-E, you're going to need a special edition to get a longer range. It is available, it is not the entry-level Mach-E. Same with the Tesla Model Y, same with the Genesis GV60, Kia EV6, Hyundai Ioniq 5. This has the longest standard range out of all of them. There are other EVs out there with longer range, that's true. In fact, I believe the longest range is from the Lucid Air at the moment, and it may be over 500 miles, so quite impressive. And it's also a very impressive price tag in that it gets pretty high. It's not in the same conversation as this vehicle. If you're looking for a super, super long range, you're going to be looking at things from BMW and Mercedes. None of these are competitors of this Honda. You could do a lot worse if you're looking to stay in the same pricing tier. Now, we're not getting to experience charging today because that's just not how drive programs tend to work. But we know factually that the Prologue is capable of DC fast charging, so it should be able to add nearly, this is a quote, 65 miles of range in 10 minutes at a DC fast charger. Honda is one of the 7 automakers that have banded together, formed that alliance that you may have heard of to introduce a fast charging network, and we're supposed to be getting 30,000 charging points in the US, so that should make a really big difference in the infrastructure. Prologue owners are going to be able to use the Tesla Supercharger network and the EVgo network and Electrify America, as well as their roaming partners. Here is another fun fact for you. We've got a pocket-style wireless phone charger right here. That is another Honda first, not having wireless charging, but that pocket style, so it's going to keep the phone really nice and secure there, which is great. That is standard on the Prologue lineup. We also have 2 USB-C ports up here and 2 in the back, standard wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and then the top 2 trims get a 12-speaker Bose premium audio system. If you're going to have specially designed active sound control, you want to feature it, right? Now, the 2 screens you can see here, we've got an 11-inch fully digital, fully configurable driver information display and an 11.3-inch infotainment screen. These are both standard. And the really cool thing is that Google built-in is standard, and that has a special version of Google Maps that's optimized for EV route planning, so it can help you find a recommended EV charger, and it will talk to the car and start preconditioning your battery. So if you're headed to a DC fast charger, you're ready to just plug in, get the fastest charging available, and get back out on the road. EV route planning is not that uncommon. A lot of EVs have it, but what I'm used to in test cars is having to exit Apple CarPlay, where I'm using Google Maps, and go into the native nav system, typically not Google Maps, in order to access that feature. So as a Maps user, I love that here it's built in and I can just use that right in the car. Here is the most contentious question that I've probably ever asked you on this channel. Are you a Google Maps person or a Waze person? Let us know in the comments, or let your freak flag fly and let us know that you're an Apple Maps user. The Honda Sensing suite of advanced driver assistance tech is standard on the Prologue, and for the Prologue, it has a couple of new features. Rear cross traffic braking and blind zone steering assist are both new and standard here. So let's talk about what you don't get standard, because that's kind of a more interesting story and it's a shorter list. Front parking assist does not come on the base EX trim, that starts with Touring, and then only the Elite trim gets the surround vision system and rear pedestrian alert, which, by the way, is another Honda first, another fun fact for you. The Elite trim is also the only one that's going to get the head-up display. It's common knowledge that EVs can be a bit pricier than their gas-powered counterparts. That's just the cost of this new technology at this moment in time. So this is not looking bad, with a base price of right around $49,000 going up to about $59,000, and I am including destination fees in those rough estimates. Honda believes that this is going to be eligible for the full $7,500 federal tax credit, and they're sweetening the deal by giving you your choice of one of 3 different charging package options. You can get a level 2 home charging station with a $500 installation credit and $100 of public charging credits, or you can get a portable charger, a $250 installation credit, and $300 of public charging credits, or you can opt for $750 of public charging credits. Which one would you choose? And before you make your choice, of course, you're going to want to consider whether or not you rent or own your home, whether or not you get free charging at your office, whether you travel a lot, and what your commute is like. And because it can vary so much, it's very nice that Honda is giving us all of those options. Now, base price for base price, it is true that this costs more than the Toyota BZ4X, Subaru Solterra, Kia EV6, Hyundai Ioniq 5, Tesla Model Y, or Mustang Mach-E. Sounds like a long list, but my point is not negative for the Prologue, because it also has more passenger volume, it has more connected tech, and critically, it has a longer standard range. So that's gotta be part of your calculus when you're comparison shopping. We're gonna start seeing Honda Prologues on the road this spring, and there will soon be another Honda EV coming in 2025. Right now, all we know is that it will be mid to large, but we will definitely bring you more information when we have it. So please make sure you're subscribed to this channel. You do not want to miss that. And then head over to CarGurus.com, where you can research and shop for a great deal.